Welcome. You are at the CCC.
Outside Issues. Hi, I'm Daphne Violet. I'm a trans, femme, genderqueer, spiritual drag artist, and digital chaplain, person in recovery.
My name is Anthony. I'm a 6-year doctoral student in clinical psych. I'm drinking a delicious cup of iced chai, and I care about you.
Yes, and I'm Lulu, and I am in recovery for crystal meth and alcohol. I'm a former Miss Castro Country Club.
Yay.
I know, exactly. And I live in the DeVos Triangle of San Francisco, and I'm always in search of balance.
And each week we provide and create a brave space where we engage in conversation around topics of recovery.
Yes, and our intention is to hold and inspire those better spaces for those people who are in recovery.
By tackling topics sometimes used to separate us.
But before we do that, like, subscribe, comment, and ding that bell.
Ding, 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 ding.
So we have two lovely special guests on today, and I'd love for y'all to introduce yourselves. Who are you?
Ladies first.
Yeah, ladies first.
No,
Well, that's both of us then.
I know.
I'm
Exactly.
saying, you're you.
Go ahead, Miss Daphne.
Hi, I'm Daphne. I'm from the Chicago area. I'm a post-operative transsexual. I am also in recovery. My drug of choice was alcoholism, and I love being in the community of sobriety.
Hey, welcome, Daphne.
Welcome.
Who are you?
Okay, hi everyone. Like I was telling you guys earlier, my name is Jonas, and I grew up in Guam, also known as Miss Pacific Rim. Yay! Hula, hula, hula. And I love the recovery community here in San Francisco. It's wonderful. So Daphne, if you're ever out here, come and visit.
Yeah.
Well, definitely to see that.
Once.
What?
You don't have to ask me once.
Okay.
Oh, quick question before we go into why did you go hula hula? Do they do that in Guam?
Yeah, they do Polynesian dancing. I mean, I can demonstrate if you want.
The people at home won't be able to hear it.
Oh no, but at least the shaking my butt.
Okay,
thing.
we can do that later.
Okay. Yeah, exactly.
So how is everyone doing?
I'm good. This past weekend, I was up in the woods at a retreat called Finding Fellowship. It's through another. It's a 12-step program, but it's really nice. It's usually a small retreat where you kind of get away from San Francisco and you get to connect with folks. I think what was really kind of important for me this year is, after going a number of years, I really challenged myself to kind of show up in a way that I hadn't, because normally I make this excuse like, I'm paying so I could do what I want, and I spend a lot of time in my room or by myself, and I miss out on all of the what it's all about. So yeah, I had a good time.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
How about you, Bunny Violet?
I am in Chicago with Miss Daphne. I'm here for the Spirituality Summit. So it happens in 3 days. And so it's just a lot of notifications like crazy. So I'm happy to have a break from them for a minute and talk with you all, get some insanity.
That's so nice. Congratulations again on getting that launched.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm
it's so
excited for
cool.
you.
Thanks. And you, Anthony?
I'm all right. So I made a big decision last Friday. So for those folks at home and Bonnie, Violet, and Lulu know, I'm working on my dissertation proposal, and I was in the process of applying for psych residency. And very long story short, I decided last Friday that I wasn't going to apply this year because I was essentially losing my mind. And so I feel a lot of relief. I feel like it's God's will. And this past weekend I was at a weekend retreat. We were doing some planning for the Western Roundup Living Sober Conference. We're doing 5-year planning, and it just felt right. I just felt like everything was falling into place. So there's a spiritual lesson in there somewhere that I think is still sinking in. So Jonas, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing fine. I guess we're all talking about what we did over the weekend.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so
How you spent your summer vacation?
Yeah. In 2 minutes or less.
Okay,
Go.
so I work retail, so I don't really get to do anything. I miss out on a lot of the activities, but in my industry, that's where we get most of our business. And so on Saturday nights, I have this thing with the sponsee where he volunteers here, gets off at 6. I get off work at 6. So it's a weekly Saturday thing where we get together and have dinner here in the Castro. So that's always wonderful. And then I go to my home group on Sunday night, which I see these guys at. which is the Sunday night Castro discussion group, and I'm the timer there, so I love it. Yeah,
Nice.
so that's
Thank
it.
you, Jonas. How about you, Daphne? How are you?
I am well. First off, I'd like to thank Bonnie and you guys for inviting me. This is the first podcast I have ever done.
Oh, fun.
Welcome.
Yeah.
I'm very happy to be here. And what I did this weekend was a lot like Jonas. I'm also in the retail industry. I work for Macy's as a celebrations consultant, and we predominantly work as a regional for the bridal registry portion of it. So I go in and pop out into stores. So I had the opportunity to go into one of my stores this weekend and meet up with some of the new colleagues in store. And then I also had the opportunity to meet and introduce myself to my new boyfriend's daughter. So it was a good weekend for me.
Girl, you did not just put up the quotation marks. We
love
can't
that.
skate past
I
that.
know.
Oh my gosh. I feel like there's so much there. Okay, but that's yours and I won't touch it. Okay, so, all right. So today's topic, are we ready to jump into today's topic?
Yes.
All right, so today's topic is rumors. Rumors.
Gossip.
Do we like them? Do we not like them?
Rumors
are
or
they
gossip?
good or are they bad? I mean, gossip. I guess it is. You know what? I just fucked up our own introduction.
That's okay.
It's gossip.
No, but we can talk about rumors too.
But rumors are essentially gossip.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, it's gossip. Do we like it? Do we dislike it?
We love it, or I do.
Yeah. I'm gonna say like it is the one thing that I have been having a tough time letting go.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's something is a part of who I am. Yeah.
What I think is really interesting about gossip is that gossip has the ability to unite people.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like my mom, my mom and I, we had very little in common, but she would have all the tea on everyone on the block and I was happy to listen. Right? And I always felt really comfortable. Like I just felt like it bonded us. So gossip, I think, does have a function in bonding human relationships, but then sometimes gossip gets a little out of control. Yeah.
I agree. Back in like junior high and high school, I used to have a lot of, a lot of my friends confided in me and I never kept the secret. What I learned, the result of that was, getting threatened to get beaten up, losing friends. They're like, I told you this in confidence. Why did you, I lost friends that way. And so in sobriety, and it's kind of funny, like I've never said this out loud, but in sobriety, working with sponsees, them telling me their story, the fourth, fifth step, and etc. I want to, it's not that I say it, but it's not, I'm not the same person that I was. I want them to feel safe with me and also in the rooms too, because, it's supposed to be a safe place, but still, we're still human. And yeah, so I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. What role, I guess, has gossip played in folks' lives? Like, does it have a role in anyone's life?
I think what it did for me for a long time, like I don't gossip anymore. Not like I used to.
You're not calling it gossip.
But no, I feel like I do it a lot less because it makes me more insecure. Because I feel like when I'm talking about other people or making comments about other people, then I start to expect the same of them. And so for whatever, I'm already like too obsessed with what people think about me that like it just throws a whole nother thing on the wrench that just makes everything crazier for me. So I try not to. I'm human, but it's definitely a lot different than what it used to be.
Yeah. When does gossip get harmful? Because I do think there's kind of, I don't know what the exact definition is for gossip, right? Because I don't know if gossip is inherently like malicious or unhealthy.
Yeah.
But what were you going to say?
When is gossip good? Because I feel like gossip kind of has a bad rap to it. Like I think it's assumed that it's a bad thing. Like you don't gossip. It's not good.
Well,
Right.
child, I'm like Linda Evangelista. I don't get out of bed unless I got a good cup of gossip to get up to. So, but I'm working on that, because like you said, it is something that we strive in the community to go against because it it does harm people. And, gossip is a mild form of good communication. So I
Right.
completely.
I feel that. Were you going to say something?
Well, no.
Because I just found the definition.
No, go ahead. Go with
Okay,
the
so this
definition.
is the definition I have. I think this is actually the first time I've ever looked this up. So gossip, casual or unconstrained conversation or reports about other people, typically involving details that are not confirmed as being true. So it's not inherently bad, but it seems like the line between that part where it's like not confirmed to be true, that's where I feel like things get kind of dicey.
Yeah, I think that Bonnie, you were saying earlier, like now you don't practice gossip as much now because it makes you feel insecure. But I think that initially it was insecurity that caused me to participate in gossip more, because number one, I wanted to feel connected, and it was a thing that we were doing, especially like in the gay community. And it's not exclusive to us, but like in I show up and all of a sudden everybody's got something to say and I'm listening in, and for me, I don't know about anybody else, but I struggled with the idea of abandonment because of other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted these people to like me. And so of course I joined in. And how it's easy to join in, especially when you aren't the subject of the gossip.
Yeah. And there's something, I have to admit, there is something that's really enticing, or like there's something so seductive about gossip. I don't know what it is, but there is like a draw sometimes when I hear it. And but I also think that gossip kind of also has, well, when I was younger, and when I was out in like the world and drinking and using, hating on people was also something you could bond over, right? Like if you had if everyone could talk shit about that one person, that was something, and like a relationship could be built out of there, right? Best case scenario, like you have an untapped need to want to build a relationship with folks, but now you're using other people to do it.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, for me, gossip was always, for me, being transsexual. The hot gossip of the day was when I walk into a room, she used to be a man, or she's a man. So that kind of gossip was very detrimental to me. But it was also my strength, because it helped me to gain my voice and be confident within myself, if that makes some kind of a sense.
That makes lots of sense.
Lots
Of course.
of sense.
Of course.
Something about gossip that I realized was harmful later on, I know now in retrospect, was it was harmful to me in the sense that if I was always participating in gossip around people who weren't uncomfortable with it, it became who I was for them. And like, if you're working on not doing that, it's like the first thing you do is clear away kind of the wreckage. And if I'm a part of that wreckage, like it's hard not to be seen a certain way. And then the other piece is all that toxic behavior, honestly, yeah. I was thinking about work.
Yeah. No, I feel that. I also think about, well, before I even talk about what I feel, so for folks listening at home, if you have some ideas about gossip, have you been the subject of gossip and that didn't go too well? Are you a big gossiper? Do you have like feelings, thoughts? Chime in. We'd love to hear what you're thinking. And with that being said, with respect to gossip, I was recently the subject of some gossip. And I remember feeling kind of flattered by the gossip, because people were talking shit, but I was like, oh shit, people are talking, and I didn't really care, but I feel like the thing about being known as that person, I get really uncomfortable when I'm talking to someone new and they're gossiping about someone, because immediately I'm like, man, you don't even know me, number one. Number two, you are shitting on this other person. And like, number three,
and what happens when I leave?
Yep, when I'm not around here, what are you going to say behind my back? I feel that.
Well, I think,
go ahead, Bonnie. Sorry.
I mean, I think just in general, you think gossip is like talking about somebody who's not in the room, so to speak. But I think one thing that's happened for me over time and with recovery and, like doing step work and stuff is like, there are times when you can talk about people, because I feel like sometimes we can be like, so not wanting to gossip, that then we don't talk about things that are talk about, because there are sometimes you do need to talk about somebody that's not in the room because you're concerned about them, or you know what I mean, and in that sort of way. And then I think also too, like there's sometimes I would say things that somebody might be like, ooh, that's like whatever. I'm like, but I would say that in front of that person.
Yeah, I know exactly. We've retitled it "Cares and Concerns," especially if we're talking about friends, close friends, or whatever. We don't have all the information because you're right. It's like there are times when like we need to compare notes to see what's going on, to see if there are issues that we need to address. And if we're so concerned about gossiping, nobody's concerned about talk. I mean, this is how a lot of us got away with being shitty messes for so long, because there wasn't anybody who was going to say, "Hey, you a mess. You in danger, Molly."
One of the things I've tried to do, Jonas, did you have something you were going to say?
Well, two things. Yeah. In junior high, I had the same feeling where like someone came up to me and said, "Oh yeah, so and so was talking about you. They said these things." I'm like, "Oh my God," even though it was bad, I'm like, "Oh, well, at least I'm being talked about." And then, I hear these things where
Put your mouth on the mic. There you go.
For people out there in radio or like podcast land, Jonas is so sweet. Now eat that mic.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, so two things here. I hate that saying. Well, I don't want to say I hate it, but because it can be interpreted two ways. Stick with the winners, because I think if I don't, there's definitely people that gossip, but then when it's done maliciously and without facts, it's not, it's old behavior. And then I can see how gossip can be good. Like, oh, did you hear so-and-so's pregnant, or so-and-so is getting a new job, or so-and-so, good things. And one thing I want to ask you, Louis, is that, you were the person that told me about Daniel, my sponsee, that OD.
Oh, I was like, girl, are we spilling tea right now?
No. You told me that the next day, because I had spoken to him the night before, and he's like, Jonas, I went out and, what should I do? And I'm like, well, okay, you know what you need to do, go to meetings, introduce yourself. And then the next day I ran into you here in the Castro, and you told me. And so I've always wanted to know, like, how did you hear it?
You mean when he passed?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So it was a situation where Mutual and his sponsee didn't make it back to the rooms. And we were at a conference in LA at the time. And it kind of was something that occurred, that there was kind of a dark shadow, because we had heard what happened. And that was another example of us not having all the information, but not trying to gossip about it, but at least wanting to kind of make sure that folks knew what was going on. And so I probably came and said, I ain't one to gossip.
No.
You'd hear from me.
Yeah.
Don't you sponsor Daniel? I'm like, yes. And then you told me the story.
Yeah, no, but I'm pretty sure that I wasn't like super spiritual at the time, because that was like really early recovery.
Yeah. I have a similar thing that happened a few weeks ago. I have an ex-girlfriend from when I was a teenager, and she recently OD'd, and she died. And so this is all the way on the East Coast. And some of my friends reached out to me, and they're like, hey, did you hear, Samantha OD'd and she died? And so that was gossip, but it was definitely like information that I would have wanted to know, like I'm over here on the other side of the country. You looked up? So we have a comment that just came in. Natalie writes, is Natalie Jade. Natalie says, I relate to the trans experience of being outed in the rooms. I had to learn to take space unapologetically. Thank you for sharing relatable experience. Thank you, Natalie.
We love Natalie.
Did any comment from folks?
Well, I just want to say thank you, Natalie. First off, I'm going to be transparent. If it wasn't for sobriety, I would not be comfortable in my own skin. I'm going to lay that on the line, because the sober community has, and I stress that, given me a voice. Because when I was a house manager for a house of 23 women, I never brought up my sexual orientation or my gender. It was just assumed. And don't ask questions, but I'm sure it was running around the house, but they had so much grace, it was never asked. But because of those experiences, I can now be open and I can talk about it in the rooms, and I'm accepting those rooms regardless of what I say. And there's that anonymity that we're supposed to have in the rooms. You know, that's where we build ourselves up. That is our place to turn into superheroes. So thank you for that comment, Natalie.
I love that. It looks like there was another comment that came in. Jimmy writes, sometimes the gossip can lead to a better understanding of someone's situation.
True story.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Well, especially,
Whoa, let's slow down.
okay.
What were you going to say?
Well, no, especially, well, okay. So I always think about, like, am I leading from love? I try to pay attention to, is the person who is sharing this with me, what's their intention? What's their motive? Because if I'm talking to a close friend and I know this person and we're just talking and then I view the information a little differently. I mean, obviously, if it's someone that I know who is just shady and like nowadays, I'm able to kind of nip it in the bud ahead of time and say, thank you, but I'm not really interested in that information. Like, it's like I tell with people who try to come and talk to me about my sponsees. You know what? I can't do anything with this information because I built trust. I'm not bringing that to them. So, you can. I always try to pay attention to the motive. So if it's genuine, and the last thing I'll say, a good friend of ours, Charles M. I struggled in the beginning with this gossip because I was all in it, and I went to him, and I don't know if I'm the only person who thinks this, but when I come in, all of a sudden I have to be perfect. The thing about it is I'm flawed, and I come in and I'm trying to get to a better place, and so I had to do some work, and he suggested that I focus on who I'm around when I'm participating in this. Meaning, not that I'm making excuses to keep doing it, but I'm around people who know that I'm trying to work on being better, who are not going to fault me for not being perfect, who are not going to judge me, who are not going to dismiss me as some, and it's taken longer because, but it's been very helpful because, like I said, now I get to say, I don't feel comfortable with this conversation. This doesn't feel right. And when I get caught up in it, I get to work a 10-step or do what I need to around it so that make sure that I'm not like living in that messiness that I was living in before.
Yeah, I feel that. You remind me a little bit of what Daphne was saying earlier. And Daphne, I really appreciate you bringing up recovery.
Yeah.
Because what it makes me think of is when I started to get sober, I had to learn of a new way of bonding with other people. And what I really do appreciate are those people who were like, no, we're not going to do this messy thing that you want to do right now. Like, I understand you want to have a conversation, but we don't do this, And I really appreciated that, right? And that's some of that kind of like maybe social correcting that happens.
Jonas is one of those people always correcting people.
Yeah.
No, in a good way, in a loving way.
And I think one of the things that's complicated here, at least what I'm picking up on, is that, like we were saying earlier, gossiping isn't inherently negative, right?
Yeah.
That there are some good things. Like, gossiping is just kind of like, it says, like, unconstrained chatting. And I feel like some of the best times to have those kind of conversations are with people who know your heart. If you shouldn't be gossiping with people you don't know.
Yeah.
Well, that's just my opinion. That's just my opinion.
I don't kiki with people I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't like I'm all you just.
Yeah.
Well,
Also,
I definitely had.
Go ahead.
When there was a situation, maybe once or twice, where I did gossip and it came back at me. It was like, whoa, this is where, like, I couldn't keep, I didn't keep my mouth shut. I blurted something out to someone else. It happened twice. And so, it bit me in the butt. And the thing about, for me, prior to coming into, the rooms, I was hanging out, with the gay crew, the gay crowd. And, I don't know if it's just unique to us, to the gay community, but the people, at least I hung out with, were vicious. The vicious queens at the bars and whatnot. And they would, like, tear people up, and including myself, and I didn't have any other friends, and they were the best that I got. And that's all I knew. And I was in a lot of I was very insecure about it. And that's why early in the recovery, when I came into, sobriety, going to meetings in the Castro, I kind of brought that mentality with me that, oh, all these queens are going to be talking about me. And so I had that, that mentality for a while. And it wasn't until much like maybe in my 5th year where like, because I stopped going to gay meetings because something did happen, but I won't talk about it. But I finally came back into gay meetings in the Castro, and I'm like, oh my God, there's actually wonderful people here who really care, that are loving, and not as, they're not what I thought recovery was. And so I'm really grateful for that. I love you.
Yeah, Bonnie Violet, go ahead.
Jonas, how much of that do you think was that, like, so you just saw people differently? Do you think that's what was different?
Yes. It was who I was. Okay, well, let me tell you the situation, what happened. So, being a person of color, this was like, 28 years ago here in the Castro. The whole thing was all about, Abercrombie and Fitch. The white party really was the white party.
Girl, it still kind of is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so when I came in, I remember going to this big, huge meeting.
Yeah.
And I raised my hand as a newcomer. Everyone approached the blonde, blue-eyed, 6 feet guy and gave them their numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the only person that came up to me was this man who must have been like maybe 60 years old and, wearing leather. And I was like, oh my God, okay, typical rice queen, of course, right? But then I learned much later that's when I stopped going to gay meetings. And then actually the home group that I started going to was predominantly straight, and they were like big book thumpers. They were like, and I loved that. I love that about my early recovery. And this gentleman spoke at that meeting. I'm like, oh my God, here's a man who I thought was, hitting on me or whatever, but he was actually practicing the principles in all our affairs.
Ooh, that's
so
we have a question or a comment.
Yeah.
Let's see it.
Ooh,
hey Jalen.
Jalen, I love it.
Go ahead. Go.
I said, I don't think it has a role. I just think we've normalized it as a community. The whole reading, throwing shade and justification behind it, being, well, if it's the truth, then it's okay to talk about it. I feel we can justify why we do it, but what is important to me is the intent. Ultimately, it's a deflection. Thank you, Jalen. Jalen always gets us together.
I feel like there's a lot to unpack there. Don't take it off the screen.
Yeah.
Hold on. Oh, y'all can keep talking. I just want to reread it.
Yeah, no. It's like, Daphne, you said something earlier, and I was thinking about this. I think that for me, because of the work that I'm doing in recovery or whatever, this whole idea of finding my voice and figuring out, like, I determine my narrative. And so I think that in getting to know me and understanding me and clearing away all the madness, then I'm no longer interested in tearing somebody else down or making light of someone else's struggles, when now I can appreciate like where I'm at. So I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I think that intent is like important to kind of keep in the factor, but I know there are plenty of times when I would have maybe talked about something that I thought was not a big deal, and then I learned later it was a big deal. So my intent wasn't bad, but I still caused harm. So I think like if you're on the other end of that, I think it's important to realize that I didn't intend to do that, but I still did it, and it still probably caused some sort of harm.
Yeah, I wanted to share that just quickly. I have a friend in the rooms who recently was the subject of some gossip, and
you and your friends.
Listen,
no, I'm sorry.
Listen.
Here's the levity I was talking about.
You're actually the friend I'm talking about. No, I'm not.
Where's that
No. So anyway, what ended up happening is this friend was dating and some shit went sour, and then some queen during a meeting tried to come for him like indirectly during the meeting, like while sharing, which is messy. Oh. But what I was thinking of was like, wow, what a perfect example of how shit just spirals out of control when all you have is a little bit of information. That's all it was. It was one bit of information that got to another person, and then it got to the wrong person who then, blew it out of proportion. So I do think intent is very important. Go ahead.
No, go. There is a question I want us to get to, but you talk first.
Okay.
What was the question?
Oh,
is this it right here?
Yeah.
Okay, let's read this. How do you deal with people who gossip about themselves? Oh, interesting. Such as posting things on Facebook, oversharing, and then oversharing at meetings. Who might be upset when they hear what they wrote and posted publicly or said in meetings is being discussed? I feel like we are talking about someone.
Well, what's funny? I have these friends that they make it a point, like they'll tell you something.
Yeah.
And they'll come to you, they'll tell you something, and they'll say, "And please don't tell anybody." And I'm like, "But you're going to tell everybody." So what I tell people is like, you know what? I don't have that much free time in the world. Honestly, I want to be one of those closed mouth people. I've learned through sponsoring folks. I'm going to tell you, like I always tell my sons, you don't have to worry. What you say is not going to pass my lips. I'm in confidence. Yeah, but as far as when I look at this, as far as the oversharing, especially about themselves, like I don't know that. Well, this is just me, and so I don't want to take anything away from. But I don't see if I'm using Facebook to just shit all over everybody with my words. I don't see that as gossip.
Right.
I don't see this gossip. If folks who are a part of what they're talking about are talking about it, it's not gossip. It's just really uncomfortable oversharing it, and that's a whole different topic because I don't trust them either.
Well, I ignore that post. I'm like, okay, next.
I don't have social media. Go ahead, Bonnie Violet.
Could feed into like a rumor veil gossip kind of thing. Like, so like, even if, you know what I mean? Like, I think it could fuel something.
I learned.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Daphne.
I learned something early in recovery because being in a house full of 23 women who's pulling hair out and tampons are flying everywhere. There's so many different types of personalities and things, and sometimes things just come out. There's slight bullying, and so I guess I have said something that was incorrectly said, and the house manager previous to me gave me 3 things that I'll never forget, and these are the rules of like the 3 golden rules in my recovery. Does it need to be said? Does it need to be said right now? And does it need to be said by me? And I use those 3 rules with just about anything. Then when I want to stop myself from, gossiping, that works for me.
Thank you, Daphne. And I feel like that's such a nice segue. I wanted us to try to get to a little bit of the solution. So I think that's like a wonderful way to get there. And first, I just want to thank Jimmy and everyone who sent comments in. We really appreciate that you watch, you listen, and you participate. We have one more comment before we start to focus on some solutions. So we have here, a secret isn't a secret once you tell someone. Anonymous. Is that my sponsee?
It's anonymous.
No, it doesn't. No, I mean,
It's Brian.
Anyway, thank you, Brian. I like that. I've also heard a secret is only safe between 3 people if 2 of them die.
Oh.
Have you ever heard that one? Okay, so let's talk about some solutions. So can I start this off?
Yeah.
So one of the things that I like to do is when I gossip, I like to gossip about like positive things that I like in someone. And that's sometimes that's very difficult for me, especially when it's someone I want to shit on. Like it's like I don't do this perfectly. On my best days, when someone brings up the name of someone I don't like, I make it a point to try to like focus on something that I like about that person. Otherwise, I'm not going to say anything at all.
Oh, I started doing that at work yesterday.
It's a nice practice.
Especially when I feel like I want to share it with someone. I will try to think of the positive thing. I think on my end, I feel like, first off, I have to acknowledge that I'm doing it. I can't gloss over it. I think that's the beginning of me healing. Anytime I want to work on something, I get some awareness around it. And then I talk to people that I trust, like my sponsor, my close circle of people. And so I put myself in a place to be held accountable. And I also start to surround myself with people who don't do it, so that I have this example. Like one of the persons who was guest co-host on here, Dominic, a while back, he's got less time than I am, but he was setting an example. We were sitting on the steps at the country club. If you know about the famous steps, we were getting ready to go in. I'm telling you now, everything's ready. Took off my earrings, pulled my hair in a ponytail. We were getting ready to gossip, and he let us know in no uncertain terms that he wasn't interested in this conversation. And the way he did it was so loving. And when I have experiences like that, especially when I value you, I want to emulate that. And so it is something, I was shamed into, but it was a good kind of shame into, like shutting up. And we didn't gossip that day. We did the next day.
One day at a time.
Yeah.
For me, I think the 10th step is where that will come in, because did you write that down? Oh.
I did. I was like, we need to talk about the 10 steps. Daphne, we're vibing tonight. Go ahead. Go. Yeah.
So for me, it's like, I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to be very transparent. When I don't like somebody, I'm going to let them know. And now that I'm in recovery for the last 5 years, I can develop this sense inside of me. This muck starts to fill in, and then it'll tap me on the shoulder and say, hey, that wasn't nice. But I'll suppress that until I go to bed, and then it'll come back up again. Remember when you said this about that? And then it gives me the chance to pray on it and work on it. And then I'll go into a meeting the next day and then just, clear it. Because if I'm not ready for a 9th step on that, then I can talk about it in the rooms.
I love that.
Nice.
Well, one thing that I do in the mornings as part of my, my morning routine, during meditation, I do that thing where, we all have heard it where like, I wish so-and-so, love, happiness, good health,
Yes.
and, and etc. And there's 3 people at work.
Oh, yeah.
That I do that every single day too. So, I mean, that's what I do to the best of my ability.
That's amazing.
Bonnie
Violet.
I just, maybe I'm self-aware in some parts of my life and maybe not.
Bonnie, that not
No, she didn't. She was like, I'm sorry, but I don't gossip.
I've never heard Bonnie gossip.
I'm not saying that I
know.
don't. I'm just curious. I'm just curious, I'm just curious about it,
Well, I think maybe those times when you speak it, but it wasn't intentional, like you were saying, because gossip doesn't necessarily have to be like, it's not always malicious.
Right.
It's like,
right. And I think that's partly maybe why I don't know. I guess that was just what's coming to mind is maybe there's more awareness I could bring to this. But I think I've always equated gossip as not cute. Like that's that's not cute. There's nothing good about it. So I think in having this conversation, there's a little bit more nuance than what I guess I would have given to gossip in the past.
Yeah. I had an experience with you a couple weeks ago where I came in here and I was like talking about someone and you were like, Anthony, I don't know that this person would want me to know these things about them. And that was really hard for me to hear, but I was like, you know what? She's right. Like it's not a cute, and I haven't done anything like that in a really long time because I was like, oh, there's actually a lot of value in that. And I think the other part of that is like, it makes me feel fucking disgusting. Like when I'm shitting on, like, it just is not a good feeling. And I love, Daphne, that you brought up the 10 step because that's the one thing that saved me, like, just since I came back a few years ago, is that the second I know that it's not right, and I have like the power, the God's will to apologize or just own it in the moment, that saved me a lot of grief.
Yeah. Bonnie, I really appreciate that line that you said to Anthony. I don't think that person would.
I don't think that this person would really want me to know this about them.
Okay. Yeah, that's really great. And then something about, I guess, I don't know what it is, but I always hear people talking about, oh, did you hear about this gossip, or they heard about this gossip? But people don't normally come up to me with gossip. And I don't know if that's because I don't participate in it. It's not what I focus on in the rooms. I focus on the newcomer. I focus on, being of service. I focus on recovery. And so I'm not sure exactly what it is, but there's this kind of like thing that you said that I kind of like experience where like, gee, people don't come to me and tell me gossip. What's up with that? And maybe because I don't engage in it that it doesn't happen. I don't know.
Was someone going to say something? Because I wanted to.
Well, I was just going to say,
I'm not
it's hard to believe, but I'm not a spiritual giant. So I still have a few folks that, you know, especially this past weekend, I remember an instance where we stepped to the side and shared some information, and, you know, and I'm continuing to work on. And I think that, you know, we talk about this all the time. That's all I can ask for, that at some point I am open to the fact that this is no longer going to serve me.
So you know what? I thank you for that. It was just reminding me of the 4 agreements. The one agreement being impeccable with your word. I just pulled it up because I feel like it's a nice kind of thing to be guided by. So it says, "Be impeccable with your word" really means never use the power of the word against yourself. When you're impeccable with your word, you never betray yourself. You never used a word to gossip about yourself or to spread emotional poison by gossiping about other people. Right? I feel like so much of humans essentially only exist kind of in word with each other. That's why when you give someone your word, it matters so much, because it's literally the only thing that you can give someone, you know?
Absolutely.
Maybe along other
especially things. Early recovery, when I didn't have anything but my word.
Right.
Like
right,
and
right.
nobody
no money,
it.
no place.
So I had no currency because nobody trusted it.
Yeah.
So but I wanted to say, before I tell you how you can reach me, we didn't say this. Okay, so we are not ambassadors for any program. All of us up here, we are speaking to you based on our experience, and hey, that's more than enough. But we just want to make sure that you know that. But if you want to reach me, you can always reach me on the gram at LouieLou86. And I just posted a behind the scenes video. So if you don't know what Brandon looks like, he's on there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can reach me, Bonnie Violet, at a Queer Chaplain on all the things. Also, the Dragon Spirituality Summit is taking place Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and you don't have to be in Chicago to participate. And one of the panels is Sober Wild Drag. So check out my shit.
And I can't congratulate you enough. I feel like what you're doing is timely and perfect, and it's going to do good stuff for the world.
Absolutely.
You can reach me on Instagram at @LucasCCC on Instagram, or you could email any of us at podcast@castrocountryclub.org. And if you want to, you can leave us a message on our SpeakPipe, which is at www.speakpipe.com/@the-CCC.
Yes, and the Castro Country Club is a safe and sober community center for all people and a refuge for the LGBTQ+ recovery community.
They provide programs and services that help people change their lives by supporting personal growth.
The vision is to reduce the suffering of addiction by connecting people to community, opportunity, and support. You can find more information at castrocountryclub.org.
Yes, and tune in every Tuesday at 4 p.m.-ish when we go live on our Castro Country Club Facebook and YouTube channels. YouTube.
And what time is that?
Wait, it's 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Pacific Standard. Excuse me.
Is that what you were asking, Bonnie Violet?
I said, what Tuesday is that?
Every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday. Oh my God.
I can't right now. I can't. So we have 2 minutes. What do we want to tell? What do we want to say with our last 2 minutes? Jonas, any final words?
Yeah, we're not perfect. That's it.
Nope.
Yeah, and I want to say, you know what? This is an opportunity for you to learn about yourself, to learn exactly what type of wording you want to use in your life. Is it going to be something that's going to be with intent to lift someone up, or is it going to be something to break someone down? Those are the choices that we have as human beings, and hopefully you make the right decisions when you choose which words you want to use.
Amen.
Amen.
I love that.
Yes. Thank you.
Daphne, thank you so much for being on the show. You are wonderful and great. And Jonas, thank you so much for being on the show. Miss Pacific Rim.
Miss Pacific Rim.
Herself.
Exactly.
Yes.
And listen to the podcast at the CCC. I think we missed that one.
No, say it again. Say it again. Say it for the people in the back.
Listen to us wherever you listen to podcasts at the CCC.
All right.
All right.
That's it. We love you. See ya.
Right on.
Right on. Woo.